My name is Liam. I am 28, and I swing a hammer for a living in a small suburb just outside Seattle. Most days look the same. I wake up at 6, drink black coffee from a thermos, and drive my beat-up Ford truck to whatever job site needs me. By the afternoon, I am covered in dust and sweat, framing houses or pouring concrete under that gray Washington sky that never seems to pick a mood. I rent a tiny apartment that is barely bigger than a garage. The kitchenette smells like old takeout, and my bed creaks every time I move. It is not much, but it fits me. I do not have savings like the guys on TV. I have enough for bills, gas, and a beer with the crew on Fridays. No big plans, no fancy trips. Just a simple rhythm that feels steady, even if it feels a little empty. It has been 2 years since I went on a date, not because someone broke my heart in some dramatic way. I just got tired. Tired of the awkward questions, the fake laughs, the way people study you like they are looking for flaws. What is your 5-year plan? They would ask. I never knew what to say, because mine has always been more like a day-by-day plan. Eat, work, sleep, repeat. I have been ghosted, stood up, and politely rejected so many times that I stopped expecting anything good to happen. Being alone started to feel safer. No hopes meant no letdowns. Then Maya called. Maya's been my best friend since high school. She is the kind of person who sticks around when life gets messy, and she never makes you feel weak for it. We do not talk every day, but when we do, it is real. That afternoon, I was sitting on the edge of my bed, boots still on, shoulders aching from lifting boards all day, when her name flashed on my phone. Liam, she said, and I could hear that tone she uses when she is about to push me. You cannot fade into the background forever. You are turning into a hermit. I laughed and told her I was fine. I told her work kept me busy. I told her I did not need anyone. She did not buy it. One blind date, she said. If it is a disaster, I will buy you beer for a month. Deal? I tried to say no. I tried to give excuses. But Maya knows me too well. She knows when I am hiding. And she knows I have been doing it for a long time. In the end, I agreed, not because I thought it would lead to love, but because I ran out of reasons to keep saying no. The worst that could happen was another awkward evening I would forget by morning. The cafe Maya picked was at the end of a quiet street in town. It had exposed brick walls, warm yellow lights, and mismatched wooden tables that made it feel cozy in a way my apartment never did. The air smelled like fresh coffee with a little cinnamon from the pastries in the glass case. I arrived 10 minutes early because construction work trains you that late means trouble. I chose a table by the window facing the door. Easy to see her when she walked in. Easy to leave if things went bad. I stared at my phone, pretending to scroll while I practiced polite exit lines in my head. Nice meeting you. Early start tomorrow. Take care. The espresso machine hissed behind the counter. People talked in low voices. A faint jazz song played over the speakers. The whole place felt calm, and I did not feel calm at all. Then she walked in. She paused just inside the door like she had to gather herself before stepping farther. She looked about 30. She had shoulder-length brown hair tucked behind one ear, and her eyes moved across the room with caution, not excitement. She wore a loose, gray, long-sleeved shirt and wide-legged jeans. Her posture was slightly hunched, like she was trying to take up less space. Our eyes met, and she gave a small nod before walking toward me. "Hi," she said as she sat down. Her voice was soft but steady. "You must be Liam." "Yeah," I said, and I stood a little too fast because my nerves were louder than my manners. "You are Laura, right?" She nodded. We shook hands. Her grip was firm, but quick, like she did not want to hold on too long. Her smile looked practiced, polite, like something she had learned to wear in public. It did not reach her eyes. The first few minutes were normal, the kind of small talk that fills space without touching anything real. She asked what I did, and I told her about construction sites and long hours. I asked what she did, and she said she was a nurse at a local hospital, working in burn care. "That sounds intense," I said. "It is," she answered. Then she took a sip of coffee, and her fingers tightened around the cup like she needed something solid to hold. I noticed she kept adjusting her sleeve, pulling it down, smoothing it, tugging at the cuff like it was a habit she could not stop. I thought maybe she was cold. Then her eyes dropped to her arm, and I saw a flicker of something in her face. Fear, maybe, or a tired kind of courage. "Look," she said suddenly. Her voice turned matter-of-fact, like she was ripping off a bandage. I might as well get this out of the way. My stomach tightened. The cafe noise felt farther away, like someone turned the volume down. She lifted her shirt sleeve slowly, rolling the fabric up her arm. Under it, her skin was marked with scars, thick, raised lines, twisted patterns that ran from her wrist up toward her elbow and disappeared under the shirt toward her shoulder. They were not faint. They were not easy to miss. They were permanent in a way that told a story without words. I did not flinch. I did not look away. I just looked at her because it felt wrong to treat her arm like it was something shameful. Laura held my gaze and her voice stayed calm, almost too calm. "No one wants to date me," she said. "Not when they see this." The words landed heavy between us. I could tell she was waiting for it. The pity, the discomfort, the polite excuse to end the night. She was giving me an exit before I could get attached, like she had learned to do that to protect herself. I reached across the table slowly, careful not to make her feel trapped. My fingers touched the edge of her sleeve. I did not pull her arm toward me. I just pulled the fabric down again, covering the scars, not because I wanted to hide them, but because I wanted her to know I was not staring at her like a problem to solve. She blinked, surprised. "I'm not going anywhere," I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt, and if I walked out now, that is what I would regret. Quote, "For a moment, she just stared at me like she was searching my face for a lie. Her eyes looked tired, but there was something else there too. A tiny spark, like hope trying to breathe. The silence between us did not feel awkward. It felt important. Finally, Laura swallowed and looked down at her coffee, her fingers tracing the rim of the cup. "You really want to hear the story?" she asked quietly, like she was giving me one last chance to run. I did not even have to think. "Yeah," I said, "if you are okay telling it." She took a slow breath, and when she looked back up, her eyes were shining with something that scared me and pulled me closer at the same time. "It happened 4 years ago," she said. "I was living downtown Seattle with my parents, and that night started like any other." Laura's voice stayed steady, but I could tell it cost her something. She held her coffee like it was an anchor, and her eyes kept drifting past me, as if she was watching that night on the wall behind my head. "It was a normal night," she said. "My parents were visiting. We had takeout, watched bad TV, and laughed at jokes that were not even funny. I went to bed early because I had a shift the next morning. I remember thinking how safe everything felt, like life was finally calm." She paused and swallowed. Her fingers tightened around the cup. "Then I woke up at 2 in the morning to the smoke alarm." I sat still, barely breathing. The cafe was warm, but I felt cold all of a sudden. "At first I thought it was a false alarm," she said. "Those alarms always went off. Someone burned toast, someone smoked in the hallway. It was always something. But then I smelled it. Plastic and wood, burning for real." She looked down at her sleeve like she could see through it. "The fire started below us," she continued. "Some kind of electrical fault. It spread fast. Too fast. The hallway was already full of smoke when I opened my door." I pictured it without trying. A dark hallway, thick air, panic in your throat. "I called for my parents," she said, and her voice shifted on that word. Parents. Like it hurt to say it out loud. They were in the guest room, farther from the door. I ran toward them, but the heat was already coming up the stairs. It felt like the building was breathing fire. Her eyes went distant. I could tell she had been there 1,000 times in her head. "I grabbed the railing," she said. "I did not even see it was burning. My hands stuck, like the skin caught. The pain hit, and it was sharp, like my bones were screaming. But I kept moving because I had to reach them." She stopped again, and I heard the smallest tremble in her breath. It was the first crack in that calm mask. "I could not get to them," she said quietly. "The flames were between us. I tried so hard. I remember shouting their names until my throat burned. I remember my dad coughing. I remember my mom calling out, but her voice got weaker. My chest tightened. I felt the urge to say something, anything, but I knew this was not a moment for words. This was a moment for listening. I made it outside, Laura said. I ran barefoot down the stairs and into the street. I was screaming for help. People were coming out of other units, coughing and crying. Someone wrapped a blanket around me. I tried to run back in, but a firefighter grabbed me and held me like I was a child. Her eyes finally met mine again, and they were glassy now. Not with tears falling, but with tears that had been held back for years. "They did not make it," she said. My parents did not make it. The cafe sounds faded in my head. I saw her as a young woman standing outside a burning building, wrapped in a blanket, helpless while everything she loved turned into smoke. "I survived because I was closer to the exit," she added, and there was something hard in the way she said it, like she hated that fact. For a long time, I wished I had not. I did not know what to do with that pain except take it seriously, so I stayed quiet and let her keep going. "The burns covered my left arm and part of my shoulder," she said. "Third degree in places. Skin grafts, infections, physical therapy that felt like torture. It took me over a year just to lift a cup without pain. The scars never really softened. They just became part of me." She took another sip of coffee, then set the cup down as if it suddenly weighed too much. "The mirror was the worst part," she said. At first, I avoided them. I would shower with the lights off. I would change clothes fast. I did not want to see what was left. When I finally looked, it felt like I was staring at a stranger. Laura laughed once, but it was not a happy sound. "I tried makeup," she said. "I tried long sleeves, even in summer. I tried pretending I did not notice people staring. But people do stare. Some look away quick. Some keep looking like they forgot I have a face too." She lifted her eyes to mine again. "And then dating," she said. "I tried, a few times. It always went the same. They act normal until they see it. Then they get quiet. Or they say something sweet that feels like pity. Or they say they are not ready for anything serious. Or they just stop texting." She shrugged like she was used to it, but her jaw was tight. "So now I do this," she said. "I show it early. I say the ugly truth before anyone can pretend they do not care. It saves time. It saves me from hoping." My throat felt rough. I wanted to reach for her hand again, but I did not want to cross a line. Not yet. Still, something in me moved forward anyway. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "Not about your arm, not about the scars. I'm sorry you had to carry that alone." Her eyes narrowed slightly, like she did not trust kindness. "I do not need someone to feel bad for me," she said. "I'm not," I told her. "I'm angry for you. There's a difference." That made her blink, like she had not heard that before. She stared at the table for a moment, and her voice softened. "Why are you here, Liam?" she asked. Really. Not the polite answer. The real one. I leaned back, surprised at how her honesty pulled truth out of me. I had come prepared with jokes and exit lines, and now those felt useless. "I got tired," I said. "Not just tired of dating. Tired of feeling like I'm always being measured, like I'm not enough. I grew up right around here. My dad was a mechanic. My mom cleaned houses. We scraped by. I got used to being the guy with hand-me-down clothes and cheap lunches." Laura watched me like she was listening with her whole body. "Every relationship I had in my 20s ended the same way," I said. "They would say I'm a good guy, but I don't have ambition. They want someone with bigger plans, bigger money, bigger everything. And I get it. I really do. But after a while, you start believing you are not worth staying for." I looked down at my hands. Calloused. Rough. A life built on work, not words. "So I stopped trying," I admitted. I told myself I like being alone, but the truth is, I just didn't want to be rejected again. Laura's face changed. The guarded look softened, like she recognized that feeling. For a long moment, we just sat there. Two strangers who suddenly felt less like strangers. Then she asked the question that made my heart kick hard against my ribs. "So why are you still sitting here?" she said. "After everything I just told you." After what you saw. I lifted my eyes to hers. Because you didn't hide, I said. And you didn't try to impress me. You just told the truth, and I don't want to walk away from that. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. I watched her hands. They were shaking a little. She took a breath and lowered her voice. Most people leave after the story, she said. Not right away. They leave later, when it gets real. When the nightmares show up. When I pull back because I'm scared. When I stop being the brave girl with a sad story. My pulse stayed steady, but something inside me felt raw. Then don't be brave with me, I said. Just be real. Laura stared at me like that scared her more than the scars. And then, before I could prepare myself, she reached across the table and touched my wrist lightly, like she was testing if I would flinch. I have a scar you haven't seen, she said. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? I asked. Her fingers stayed on my wrist, warm and careful. I mean, she said, if you say you're not going anywhere, you might have to prove it sooner than you think. The way Laura said it made the air feel heavier. It was not a threat. It was not drama. It sounded like a warning from someone who had learned the hard way that good moments can break without permission. I did not ask her to explain right away. I just sat there, steady, giving her space to decide what she wanted to share. Outside the window, the streetlights were coming on, and a thin mist hung over the sidewalk like Seattle was holding its breath. Laura finally pulled her hand back and stared into her coffee. I don't date, she said quietly. Not anymore. I tell myself I don't need it. But the truth is, I'm scared of how much I want it. I kept my voice low. Want what? Peace, she said, and someone. Just one person who does not leave when things get ugly. My chest tightened. I knew that feeling. It was the same one that had kept me in my apartment for 2 years, pretending I was fine. What's the scar I haven't seen? I asked gently. She looked up and her eyes were clear but tired. Not on my skin, she said, in my head. For a second, I thought she was going to stop there. Then she took a breath and kept going. After the fire, she said, I started waking up in the middle of the night. I would smell smoke that wasn't there. I would hear the alarm even in silence. Sometimes I would run to the front door without shoes, shaking, sure the building was burning again. I pictured her alone in the dark, panicked, heart racing, and it made me feel protective in a way I was not used to. I went to therapy, she said. I did everything they told me. I worked hard. I became a nurse because I wanted to turn the worst thing in my life into something that mattered. She gave a small smile, but it was sad. And it helped, she said. But it never fully goes away. It's like a shadow that follows me. Some nights are fine. Some nights feel like I am back in that hallway. I nodded slowly. Do you have nightmares? Yes, she said, and her voice cracked. And when I do, I push people away, because I hate being seen like that. I hate feeling weak in front of someone I care about. I understood her more than she knew. I had done the same thing, just quieter. I had pushed people away before they could decide I was not worth it. So you test them, I said softly. You show the scars early. You tell the story early. You give them a reason to leave before you get attached. Her eyes sharpened like I had read a page she thought was hidden. Yeah, she admitted, and I hate that I do it, but it hurts less when I control it. I let a moment pass. Then I asked, what do you want from me, Laura? She hesitated. Her fingers traced the cup again. I want to believe you, she said. I want to believe you are not going anywhere, but I have been wrong before. There was a tenderness in her honesty that made my throat feel tight. I did not want to promise big things. I did not want to make her feel like I was trying to rescue her. I just wanted to be true. I can't promise you I'll never mess up, I said. But I can promise you I'm not here for a quick story. I'm here because I like you, not the idea of you. You. Her lips parted slightly. She looked like she was trying to decide if she deserved that. The cafe had started to empty. Chairs scraped softly. The barista wiped down tables. The evening got quieter around us, like the world was giving us privacy. Laura stared at me for a long time. Then she said, okay. Just that one word, but it sounded like a door opening. We talked a little longer, but we kept it lighter. Favorite coffee places in Seattle. How she loved fog but hated the constant rain. How I liked my job because it made sense. You put pieces together and something stands. It felt good to talk like normal people again after carrying something so heavy. When we stood to leave, I paid without asking. She tried to argue, but I shook my head. Outside, the air was cold and damp, the kind that sticks to your skin. Laura pulled her sleeves down again and I did not comment. We walked toward the parking lot together, side by side. Not touching, not rushing, but not far apart either. At her bus stop, she stopped and faced me. The streetlight above us made her eyes look brighter. "I don't usually do this," she said. "Do what?" "Give someone my number and hope they use it," she said. I felt a small smile pull at my mouth. "That's fair." She took her phone out and handed it to me. My hands were rough and dusty even after washing, and I was suddenly aware of how different we were. A nurse and a construction guy. A woman who carried fire in her past, and a man who carried quiet failure in his. I typed my number and handed it back. For a second, we just stood there. The space between us was not huge, but it felt charged, like a wire humming. "I had a good time," she said, and her voice sounded surprised, like she didn't expect herself to mean it. "So did I said. She gave a small nod, then turned to leave, but she paused after a few steps. "Liam," she said. "Yeah." "If I disappear for a day or two," she said, "it's not because of you." My chest tightened again. "Okay." She looked like she wanted to say more, then she didn't. She just climbed onto the bus, found a seat, and looked out the window as it pulled away. She lifted one hand in a small wave. I waved back, standing there in the cold like an idiot, watching the taillights fade into the mist. That night, I drove home with my head full of her voice, full of that moment at the table when she showed me her scars and waited for me to run. When I got to my apartment, it felt smaller than usual. The smell of old takeout hit me the second I opened the door. I kicked off my boots and sat on the edge of my creaky bed, staring at my phone. I wanted to text her right away. I wanted to say something meaningful, but I also didn't want to overwhelm her. So I sent the simplest thing I could. "Hey, I'm glad I met you today. I'm home safe. Hope you are too." She did not reply that night. I told myself it was fine. I told myself she was tired. She worked in a hospital. She had her own life. But when morning came and there was still no reply, something old and familiar rose up in me. That feeling that says, "Here we go again. She saw your cracks. And now she's gone." I went to work anyway. I hammered nails. I lifted boards. I laughed at the guys, jokes when I had to. But my mind kept drifting to Laura, to her warning. "If I disappear for a day or two, it's not because of you." By the second evening, I was sitting in my truck outside the job site, watching rain bead on the windshield, when my phone finally buzzed. It was Laura. The message was short. "Rough shift. Mind if we walk?" My heart kicked hard. I typed back right away. "Yeah, tell me where." Her reply came fast. "Waterfront trail. In 20 minutes. I started my truck, already heading toward her, when another message popped up. "And Liam, if you see me fall apart, please don't get scared." I stared at the screen, my hands tight on the steering wheel. Because I knew right then, this was the moment she had warned me about. And I also knew I was already too deep to turn away. I got to the waterfront trail early. The rain had slowed to a light drizzle, the kind that hangs in the air more than it falls. The water looked dark and still, and the city lights across the bay blurred like someone had wiped them with a wet hand. People passed by in hoodies, walking dogs, jogging with their heads down. Everyone had somewhere to be. I stood near the entrance, hands in my jacket pockets, trying to calm my breathing. I had been nervous on dates before, but this felt different. This felt like waiting outside an emergency room, like something real was about to happen, something that could change the shape of my life if I let it. Then I saw her. Laura walked toward me slowly, shoulders tight, sleeves pulled down even though it was not that cold. Her hair was damp and her eyes were red like she had been holding back tears for hours. She tried to smile when she got close, but it did not last. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I answered gently. "You okay?" She let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped in her chest all day. "No," she said, "but I didn't want to be alone." That hit me hard, because it was one of the bravest things a person can say. Not "I am fine," not "I can handle it," just the truth. We started walking side by side. The trail ran along the water, lined with wet trees and benches slick from rain. The air smelled like salt and cold leaves. Our footsteps made soft sounds on the damp path. For a while, Laura said nothing. I did not push. I just stayed close enough that she could feel me there. Finally, she spoke. "A coworker said something today," she said, her voice low. "Not even mean. Just stupid." "What did they say?" I asked. She rubbed her thumb along the edge of her sleeve. "They said, 'You must be so strong to deal with that every day.'" I frowned. "That doesn't sound awful." "It's not," she said, "but it opened something in me. Like a door I keep locked, I hate that word. Strong. People say it like it's a compliment, but it feels like a cage, like I'm not allowed to have a bad day, like I'm not allowed to be tired, like I'm not allowed to fall apart." Her voice shook on that last part. We reached a bench overlooking the water. Laura stopped and stared out at the dark waves. "I've been working too much," she said. "I've been pushing myself to prove I'm fine, to prove I deserve to be there. Burn Care it's my way of making it mean something, but it also makes me relive it. Every shift, every scream, every smell. Every time a patient looks at me and I can tell they're thinking. She understands." Quote. She turned her head toward me, eyes glossy. "And then I come home," she continued, "and I'm alone, and it all comes back. The guilt, the hallway, their voices. The part of me that still believes I should have saved them." My throat tightened. I felt helpless, but not in a running away kind of way. In a stay and carry it with her kind of way. "Laura," I said softly, "you were a kid in a burning building. You did everything you could." She shook her head hard. "I don't want the logical answer," she whispered. "I know what people say. I want it to stop hurting." She sat down on the bench, shoulders curling in like she was trying to protect her heart with her own body, and then the tears came. Quiet at first. Then heavier. Her face tightened, like she was embarrassed, like she hated that I was seeing this side of her. I sat down beside her, leaving just enough space so she didn't feel trapped. For a few seconds, she tried to wipe her tears fast, like she could erase them. Then she gave up. "I warned you," she said between breaths. "I warned you I'm not always okay." Quote. I leaned closer. "Good," I said gently, "because I'm not always okay either." She looked at me like that surprised her. I exhaled and let myself be honest in a way I almost never am. "I've spent 2 years hiding in my apartment," I told her. "Not because I love being alone, but because I'm scared of being seen as not enough. I'm scared of someone looking at my life and deciding it's too small, too simple, too boring." Laura's breathing slowed a little, like my honesty was pulling her back to the present. "I'm scared too," I admitted, "but I'm here." Her eyes searched my face, and I could tell she was looking for the moment where I would get uncomfortable, where I would pull back and say something polite and leave. I did not. She let out a shaky laugh that didn't sound like laughter, more like disbelief. "You really meant it," she said. "I meant it," I said. "I'm not going anywhere." Laura stared at the water again, blinking hard. Then she did something that made my heart stop. She slowly pushed her sleeves up. Not in a dramatic way. Not like she was daring me. Just like she was tired of hiding for one more second. Her scars were there, raised lines catching the glow of the streetlights. They looked even more real out here, in the open air, under the world's eyes. "I hate these," she said quietly. "I hate what they remind me of." I looked at her arm, then at her face. "I don't hate them," I said. She frowned. "You should." "No," I said, and my voice was firm now. "They don't make you less. They show you lived through something that would have destroyed a lot of people. And I know you're tired of hearing strong, but Laura, you're still here. That matters." Her lips trembled. "I feel ugly," she whispered. "I feel like no one could ever want this." I reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. I placed my hand gently over her forearm, not gripping, just resting there like a promise. "I want you," I said quietly. Not because I feel sorry for you. Not because I want to be your hero. I want you because you're you. Because you're honest. Because you care so much it hurts. Because you showed up today instead of disappearing. Her breath caught. She stared at my hand on her arm like she couldn't believe it was real. Then she leaned forward, and her forehead touched my shoulder. She didn't speak. She just stayed there, shaking as she cried into my jacket. And I held still, letting her do it, letting her feel whatever she needed to feel. Minutes passed. Cars hissed on wet roads nearby. A dog barked in the distance. The world kept moving while she finally let herself stop pretending. When she pulled back, her eyes were swollen, but there was something softer in them now. "I'm scared," she said. "I know," I answered. "What if I can't be what you want?" she whispered. "What if I fall apart again?" I brushed a damp strand of hair away from her face, careful and slow. "Then we take it one day at a time," I said. "Not some perfect plan, not some big promise. Just tomorrow, and then the next day." She stared at me, and the space between us felt smaller than it had ever been. "Friends," she said, almost asking. I smiled slightly. "Friends," I said, "and we see where it goes." Laura nodded, and then her hand slid into mine. Her fingers were cold from the rain, but her grip was steady. We walked again, hand in hand this time, like we had both decided to stop pretending this was just a random night. When we reached her bus stop, she didn't let go right away. "Thank you," she said, voice small. "For what?" I asked. "For not making me feel like I'm too much," she said. I swallowed. "You're not too much," I said. "You're real." She nodded, then stepped onto the bus. Before the doors closed, she looked back at me. "Liam," she said. "Yeah." Her eyes held mine, and I could see the fear still there, but I could also see hope trying to live beside it. "Don't disappear," she said. I shook my head. "I won't," I promised. The bus pulled away, taillights fading into the mist. I stood there for a moment, rain on my face, heart pounding like I had just stepped onto a path I couldn't unchoose. And the truth was, I didn't want to. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't running from life. I was walking straight into it, with her hand in mine.